Hello and welcome back to the Delve podcast. Today we're taking another Reddit question, and this one is on procrastination. I'm Allie. I'm a staff therapist here at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago.
And I'm Adam. I'm the executive and clinical director at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago.
Yes, here at Delve Psych, we offer individual, couples, group, and family therapy. So if you're interested in a free consultation call, head on over to delvepsych.com. That's DELVEPSYCH.com. And check out our blog on Substack at delvepsych.substack.com. And with this podcast, we really rely on word of mouth. So if you find value in this podcast, please do share with at least one other person. It would really help us out. All right. So back to Reddit questions. I always love reading Reddit questions because I feel like a lot of people can probably relate. You know, a lot of things in the human experience are universal in the sense that a lot of us have dealt with similar issues. So I'm hoping that this person's Reddit question can apply to a lot of our listeners out.
Yeah, well, and it's a great platform for a person has problem with a thing and just broadly wants to hear how people think about it. I think it's problematic in that I think that there is a lot of assertiveness posed by people without a lot of experience or expertise in these things. I tend not to be too persnickety about the fact that people are just trying to support one another. But I think what you'll end up getting largely from Reddit, especially the top comments and most upvoted comments, is the zeitgeist. It is whatever the populace tends to believe. And I find that typically, at least at Delve, we almost always have a slightly different answer. Maybe even a substantially different answer, because I think we're really trying to be critical of the zeitgeist and open-minded about how to think about humans and their condition and station and standard and precarious circumstance.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when posting on Reddit, just take people's responses to your post with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Some people claim to be experts and they're maybe not, but I think it could feel good regardless to just let out what you're struggling with and get some sort of support back. But all right, so let's see what our thoughts are on this Reddit post. Okay, the title says procrastination, feeling stuck in a loop. Lately, I've been caught in a phase where focusing on my work feels nearly impossible. Each day seems to repeat itself. Same routine, same thoughts, same struggle to get things done. I used to be passionate, focused, and full of energy. Every task, big or small, felt meaningful. But now, even completing the simplest things takes all my effort. I find myself procrastinating more than ever, constantly pushing tasks forward, hoping motivation will strike again. It's like my mind and body are out of sync, wanting to move forward, but somehow stuck in pause mode. I try to remind myself that burnout and mental fatigue can happen to anyone, especially when life becomes monotonous. Maybe it's a sign to slow down, reset, and rediscover balance. I'm learning that it's okay to not always be at your best as long as you don't give up completely. If you've ever felt like this, trapped in a loop, watching your spark fade a little, how did you find your way back? I'd love to know how others cope with procrastination, loss of focus, and that feeling of being stuck.
Okay, I furiously took some notes on all of that as we were going through. I think that.
Oh, should I give credit to who posted this?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Their username is interesting. It's terrible_ask_3034.
I find on Reddit for some reason, I don't know if these are just automatically generated usernames or something of that nature, but almost all of them these days are like that. It's two adjectives, and I guess in this case that's what, an adjective and a verb, but regardless, and then a bunch of numbers. So I think maybe people just aren't picking their usernames or something, or perhaps all the bots are trying to learn. I don't know. But I think that this way of thinking is incredibly capitalistic and neoliberal.
Mm.
And I think we were taught this way of thinking about motivation, about productivity, about our own worth. I think we were taught this by essentially like the government, the economy, etc. And I'm not too conspiratorial here. This comes from psychological framings. I think his name is Brian Cushman, talks about the idea that psychology and the way that we think about ourselves and our identities is something that a government, a civilization, an economy has a way of helping to define. Your leaders within a particular culture, within a particular civilization, within a particular nation are going to tell you what they want you to be doing, how they want you to behave. And you'll hear that in the rhetoric that they describe. If you listen to the way that the Soviet leaders talked to the populace, if you listen to the way that North Korean leaders talk to their populace, and if you listen to the way that American leaders talk to their populace, they're slightly different each, but it displays, not slightly, they're very different each, but it betrays, it shows you how these structures want you to think about yourself. And the American mentality is you should be productive, you should get a lot done, don't be a drain on society, be independent, be resourceful, save for retirement, be financial. Like there's this whole kind of package of systemic thought about what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go to work, do a good job, get ahead, save up, have a good retirement, move up in your career, etc., and so forth. And so then if you hear somebody saying something like, I just go to work and do a job, I don't care about getting a promotion, I don't much care about saving for retirement, etc., so on, people's brains will like short circuit at hearing this.
Yeah, they're like, what are you doing with your life?
You're such a failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, I've been cracking on about Alain Dubuton quite a lot recently, and he points out that this kind of the language that we use to describe someone like that who is stuck and stagnant in their life and in their career in the West is loser. You lost. But if you look at the way that past civilizations had described people who didn't have as much money, they would often call them something like unfortunate. You hear the difference in mentality there.
Yes.
Who are we blaming? Society or you?
Absolutely.
So in the West, and I think America is the epitome of this particular mentality. If you're not getting ahead, it's because you're not being productive. And you're not being productive because you're not motivated, because you can't get your shit together, because you can't complete the simplest things. And you need to find your way back. You need to deal with the fact that your spark faded. And you are not allowed to consider this very idea of give up completely.
Yeah. And
You
I mean,
must. I'm sorry. I'm animated.
No, it's okay. You're excited about this topic. I am too. I think, and especially in the US, it's like this, this messaging of you need to be motivated, you need to be productive, because you, as a cog in this machine in society, having some sort of output, it at the end of the day, it helps the people at the top. They just want you to be productive and you to be motivated and you to create output so that the people at the top, make more money or whatever. So it's really like a lot of manipulation going on.
Absolutely. And I think if we were to, from the last episode, to try to read with the idea of a capitalistic neoliberal approach, then it would say that what it's trying to do is provide the greatest opportunity for all. How do you figure out, like, how do you create something for people to do? Well, we need to be producing, we need to be exporting, we need to like have products and services that represent something that we do, something that we can sell, something that we can provide to others. That's really what an economy would be based around, is the movement of money around. that's a different mentality than, and I'm certainly not an economics or really even like history of economic theory expert. So people who know this world better are probably cringing at pieces of this, and that's okay. Please write to me. But a much more of a communist mentality would be a greater kind of, or I should say, within the economic side, it would be a socialist idea. That is much more about like shared resources and fair distribution instead. Those aren't the only two mentalities, but those are the two that are most commonly paid attention to now.
Yeah.
So I think within this framing, we need to understand that this idea that you must produce and you must get ahead and you must like put your sense of worth being tied to doing this thing is a idea that was given to you, not one that you generated by yourself. And if you look at let's say like Aboriginal cultures or indigenous cultures, the contemporary hunter gatherers, they don't think like this. Nobody's sitting around saying like, "Why I didn't pick enough berries today?" Very often, they're much more communal and much more focused on, are we working together? If we are not working together, then we are off. There's much more of kind of there's an egalitarianness to that, but a collective community-ness to it. That's not to say that some of the same things within these cultures aren't happening. People go to work. People work within all cultures of some kind. Work is part of the foundation of all civilization. But how do we think about the work, and how do we think about ourselves as workers? Those are some of the places where differences start to come. But it is an American Western ideology to focus on these things like, I have to motivate myself. I have to get ahead. I have to find my way back to make sure that I deal with my spark faded. And I have to protect against burnout and mental fatigue and rediscover balance. And that's just a way of thinking.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I can also I can hear though in this person's Reddit question, like, I think they felt some sort of joy and purpose and fulfillment in like working towards things that they're passionate about. And so perhaps my question would be, if this client was sitting in front of me, like kind of trying to parse out, okay, like the times when you did feel motivated, full of energy, had a spark, were passionate about the things that you were doing on the day to day, what were you working on? What were you working towards? And like, have those things, like those hobbies or those goals, have those sort of kind of faded away in like recent months? And maybe that's what's going on. I don't know, but
we're very near one of the potential traps here. We could easily fall through one of the trap doors, but part of your phrasing, I think, rescues it. If we go down the path of what were you working on when you were passionate about life, then let's redo that. Let's recreate the circumstances when you previously had passion. I think that's one of the traps. Don't do that. Whereas the second thing you said, what were you working toward? The times when we feel the greatest sense of passion are usually the times when we are working towards something that we want, that's on our goals, needs, values list. It's the pursuit of the thing. We're pursuing something, and we're usually partially pursuing an identity. Now, as we're pursuing an identity, we feel moments of cohesion with that identity and moments of dissonance with that identity, right? If we feel a sense of cohesion with that identity, we're gonna feel good, and there will be greater motivation to continue to try to do that thing. But once you get this gets into symbolic self-completion a little bit, which we have not talked about on here. It's a complicated theory, but I love it. Once you get to a place where you've kind of completed that identity, once you get to a place where you've kind of completed that idea, motivation does drop. And the reason why you felt that passion before is, one, it was new. Two, it was consistent with the pursuit. Three, it was consistent with the ideas that they told you you need to be. So it's all cohesive, right? It ain't new anymore, and you've already done it. You've already cohered with those ideals. So what your burnout is the monotony of life, because none of this is new anymore. And you must just continue to sustain if you want to kind of like continue to adhere to their mentality for what you need to be.
Hmm. Yeah, so I guess like what's next for this person? If what they were passionate about before and whatever goal that they were going towards, if that feels completed, then yeah, what's next? You always say like the day that I complete one of my goals is actually a sad day, because I can no longer work on that thing that I was really excited about that got me up in the morning. So what's next for you, Reddit person? I I really do. I always go back to this quote. I know I've said it a million times, but he who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow. I always love that quote because I think it's so true. Like, especially from like the existentialist perspective, like life is the meaning that we endow upon it. It doesn't inherently have meaning, and so yeah, like what does matter to you in this life? What gives you a sense of vigor and excitement and um motivation to move forward um and yeah, so get out that goals, needs, values list, and like maybe we've strayed from that list a little bit. Maybe we haven't been living in pursuit of those things that are really important to us. Because yeah, I know for myself, if I'm really excited about something, um I have way more passion to work on it, even if it's a difficult task that seems like a big feat. If it's something that I'm really excited about, like when I was working on my blog post for Delve for the mental health of actors, and putting together that didactic presentation on that, like I was so passionate about that, and like yeah, like writing a whole blog post and putting together a whole presentation seemed a little daunting. I was really excited about what I had to say about it, and putting my ideas on paper on those slides of a presentation and presenting that to people was really exciting to me. Um, so I was excited to go to the coffee shop and sit down and work on it versus like math homework. Not very
Right, right.
much. Yeah.
I mean, I think you articulate all of that extremely well. I would say there's a very big difference between the things that we chose for ourselves that represent
Yeah.
something that we are trying to be, and the things that our boss chose for us because their boss chose for them, because this company was existed within a marketplace that was defined by the government that asks you to do these things and make sure that you make money for the shareholders, right? Because that's your fiduciary responsibility at the end of the day. Right? Like that's all just sort of bestowed upon us rather than kind of self-generated and through self-discovery. Now, I will say we have the mentality at Delve, generally speaking, that it is about the kind of pursuit, but I do need to kind of give some airtime to the alternative perspective that at a certain point your job is to just exist, to stop trying to do things. I don't tend to think this way, and I think it is valuable to continue to try to pursue something. That's why I've got this mentality of, pursue your goals, needs, values, and generally speaking, you're generally going to feel happier in your life, whatever the hell happiness is. But I just need to lend credence to the alternative view, which says, stop doing stuff and just be here. And we should recognize that that itself is also a, worth considering mentality. And perhaps it's my own psychology that leads me to the point where I have a degree of discomfort with running that argument to its logical conclusion. Why don't we just meditate all day? You know? But you could.
You could. I don't know. I'm trying to like self-reflect and think of how I would feel if I was just meditating all day every day. I don't know if maybe it is just the ingrained capitalism in me of like I feel like I need to do something else. I want to do more. Like, yeah, like this is nice, but I think that would get monotonous and boring after a while for me if I was
Yeah.
just meditating all day every day. I think for me it is important to pause and like stop and smell the roses and just be present. But for me, if I'm like being honest, it's more of a means to get back to doing the thing. Like like me meditating and pausing and going out in nature, whatever, is a means to be able to reset, to be able to go back to doing the things, you know?
Right, right. But again, if so one of my hacks for therapy is whatever somebody trends toward, teach them the opposite. Not because the opposite is better, but because it's new and different, and they're coming to you in a state of difficulty, which means that whatever they tend to do is part of the structure of what is wrong right now. So if I just teach you the opposite of what you're doing right now, and I've seen how, you know, myself or others have done the opposite, then I can kind of guide you down that path. That's valuable. So if somebody tends to just go and do, then the framing of stop, sit down, don't do anything is useful if they're coming to you in the combined mentality of do everything, do as much as you can all the time, and I'm stuck right now or I'm having a hard time right now. Do the opposite is stop, just sit, just be. Whereas if somebody is stop, just be all the time and they're not really sure where they're going in life, then pushing them toward the path of like, well, you got to work towards something. You got to figure out what you're working toward. That's valuable because I both don't do anything and feel stuck within the not doing anything. The combination of both of those ideas tell me that it's a good idea to start to explore the pursuit argument.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I guess this person, I don't know, it seems like this person in the monotony of not doing, they feel uncomfortable in that. They feel stuck in that. Um, I guess they find I don't know, it's interesting. I'm kind of battling between like, okay, is this mostly what um is this mostly like society putting on them that they should be doing more and that's why they feel bad about themselves, or is it like intrinsically them being like, you know what, I've noticed and reflected and realized that I feel much more invigorated and passionate about life when I am working towards things.
Well, in this person's case, I would suspect. Firstly, let's say a couple of things. Motivation doesn't strike. Motivation isn't a thing that happens sometimes. It's a thing that you generate out of your actions. You must manifest it. You must create it. The raw material of motivation is your choices and your actions. So you have to, if you want motivation, you don't find it under some rock. It doesn't hit you. It doesn't strike. You make it. You craft it. You like pull out the needle and thread and sew. But toward what? And if they've tied it to their job, I think one of the challenges is that the job may not comply because they have something they want you to do. It's what you're doing. And also, it sounds like you seem to be getting by well enough. Like, I don't hear this person saying, like, I'm afraid my boss is going to fire me. I'm not getting my bare minimum amount of work done or anything of that nature. So I would say Stoic philosophy, A, do your job the best you can, given the resources you have available to you. That's the kind of like, that's your current context. You do live in this society. You do have this job. You do need this food that the money pays you. So the way to deal with that is do your job. It sucks that it comes with this kind of mental kind of toil, but do your job. That's do your job. Second to that, but what else do you want to do? And how much focus do you want to put on job being identity? It's hard because jobs in the United States and in the West take up a majority of our life, typically speaking. But we do still have those other times, and if we have those other times and that other space, perhaps we find our meaning elsewhere in that. And lest we forget, breaking out of the entire mentality is an option to us. If you really want to, you can go find a cheap plot of land in the middle of Montana and start hunting and gathering on it. It's a little bit difficult in the US still, but there are options for us to detach from this societal framing. And so we have to decide, like, am I continuing to participate in this societal framing? Most likely your answer is going to be yes. So then it's a question of how you mean to participate. But continuing to do these jobs and find meaning within these jobs and expecting that it's always going to have this kind of general sense of passion and it's your fault that you're not feeling that passion, that whole mentality, just stop. It's not your fault. This was done to you. It's not your fault.
Yeah.
But it is your responsibility to do something about.
Yeah. So I guess what I'd say to this person is, a few things. One, give yourself grace that a lot of these things are put on you and it's not your fault. And a lot of people don't feel everyday passion and vigor for their jobs, and it's okay. And second, if you want a life that feels a little bit more passionate and fulfilled in the day-to-day, like, what else are you doing? What else are you pursuing that you want to do outside of that? And then the third thing is what you said, which, like, motivation just doesn't strike and pop up out of nowhere. That I think that's something that people really need to hear. A lot of people are like, oh, I'll clean the bathroom when I feel like it. Well, you're never going to randomly feel like cleaning the bathroom. I mean, maybe you do. Maybe some people do.
Maybe some people do, but yeah.
But I feel like a lot of people, like, aren't randomly going to be like, you know what I really feel like doing right now? And so a lot of, like, but taking that first step is going to be the fuel to the motivation, to the continued motivation to continue to do that thing and to complete it. And so taking that first step may be the hardest part, like maybe the most uncomfortable, excruciating. I really don't feel like doing this thing. Oh my God. There have been podcast episodes where you and I have felt like crap going into, and we've sat down and maybe the beginning is a little wonky. But then once we start going, then it's like, oh, okay, I'm feeling this episode. This is pretty good. Okay. We're doing it. Like, we created our own motivation out of just like doing the thing. I know it sucks. I know it's hard, but that the first step, that's what it takes, is taking that uncomfortable first step. So
yeah, you want it? Do it.
Do it.
Stop talking about it. Do something.
Well, Redditor, I hope that was helpful, and I hope listeners that was helpful as well. Moving on to the quote on the board. You felt a sense of belonging to the lie that they told you.
That's actually, I meant this in a very different context, but I actually think it's apropos the conversation we just had. When you were feeling that passion, when you were feeling that connectedness, it was probably to the lie that was told to you by the company, by maybe even your family, but certainly by the economic kind of circumstance and government and society with which we reside, right? Like, you were told you will be successful, you will feel better if you buy these products, if you do these jobs, if you have these things. And then I find many humans are now sitting in the house that they worked really hard to buy, with the job that they worked really hard to get, with the degree that they spent years trying to accomplish, and they're sad and they're bored and they're lonely. And you're going like, well, that's what you told me. You told me if I do these things, I'll be happy. And I did these things and I'm not happy. What the hell? You felt a sense of belonging. You felt that sense of belonging to the lie.
Yeah. Oh, and what a hard realization to come to when you're sitting in that house that you like spent so much time and money getting to, and you're like, this, okay. Okay.
It's Thursday again.
It's Thursday. So what was your original intention with the quote then?
I also think that this happens when I think people get stuck in the trying to let go of someone that it's winter time, which I find is unfortunately breakup season. And so a lot of people are going through breakups in this kind of general period right now. And I think letting go of the breakup very often what we're attaching to is the view that we had of the situation, but that was likely predicated on some of the things that the other person told you, some of the kind of predicates of the relationship that were agreed upon, but people didn't actually intend to follow through with. And in the kind of like, so many people fall prey to things like love bombing these days. The love bombing was the lie, and you were feeling a sense of belonging, not to the person and not even to the relationship, but to the lie, right? Like I was invested in the hope that came with the lie.
Yeah. Dang. And then yeah, when the wool is like pulled from out from your eyes and you see like, oh, this was all a lie, like, oh, it's such a hard day because you really attached yourself to that idea of what it was, and it's what it's not, you realize. So
Where do you think that idiom comes from? Like, who's putting wool in people's eyes? That sounds, you gotta scratch your cornea.
I know, even as I was saying it, I was like, what is this phrase? What
What is this
saying?
phrase? I think you got it right, but what the hell is this phrase? Who's putting wool in people's eyes?
I don't know, maybe it's from like, way, way, way back when. And like, I don't know.
No, all right.
We'll figure it out. I'll have to figure that one out after the podcast ends. But all right. Well, I hope everyone was able to glean some nuggets of wisdom from this podcast. As always, if you're interested in working with us, head on over to delvepsych.com, delvepsych.com, and head on over to our blog on Substack at delvepsych.substack.com. Until next time.
Thank you, Allie.
Thanks, Adam. Bye.